Welcome to the Overflow Worship Podcast, where we serve and support leaders so you can serve and support your local church.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Overflow Worship Podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Olson. Merry Christmas! I hope that you had a great Christmas day with family, with friends, whatever that looked like for you. I hope that you had a great time together, sweet fellowship. And, for those of you who maybe Christmas is a really hard time, maybe it's a time that you don't look forward to, you actually dread because of past hurt or trauma or grief that you're walking through. And I just want you to know that I'm thinking of you as well, because it can be a really happy time for a lot of people and also can be a very sad time for a lot of people. So I'm thinking of you as well. And I hope that you felt the nearness of God throughout this season. So here we are. It is the last week of 2022. Can you believe that? I can hardly believe it. And I wanted to take you on a journey in this podcast as we prepare to enter into a new year. We prepare to enter into 2023. Everybody's minds are starting to think about goal setting and what am I going to do for the next year and, all of those things. But here's what I want to do today. I want to do something a little bit different. I want to help you prepare your heart and your mind for the new year and for those whatever goal setting conversations you have, whatever that looks like for you, because it's different for everybody, I want to help you feel prepared for that. So here's what we're going to do. I want you to look back on the last year and think about all of the things that God has brought you through and all of the things that He has done, the things that you've accomplished with His help, the things that you celebrate. I want you to think about those things. So here's something that I've been learning. There's this whole concept of what's called the gap and the gain. And it's actually a business concept from Dan Sullivan that I've heard about for years because Dan Sullivan has an entrepreneurial coaching program called Strategic Coach that my husband is a part of. And so we've talked about this. He shared this with me, and I've read Dan's book, but it's interesting in how this can apply to every area of life, not just as a business owner or an entrepreneurial mind. But here's the thing. So gap, somebody who lives in a gap is always looking at what didn't happen. So you set a goal. Let's say you set a goal to we're thinking new year, everyone's thinking health. Okay. So let's say you set a goal to work out 20 days a month. Okay. So you set a goal to work out 20 days a month and you ended up only working out 12 days a month throughout the year. And so you would be fixating on the 8 that you missed. That's the gap, like only fixating on what you missed, what you didn't do. Now, gain, living in a mindset of gain would be, but you know what? I did 12. Let's celebrate the 12 days. I'm healthier than I was when I started the year, right? So that's a quick synopsis of gap and gain. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's kind of the overview. And it's an interesting mindset because, as we come to the end of the year, sometimes it can be really hard and really depressing for some because it's like, man, I didn't reach my goals. I dropped the ball, or I screwed up here, or I did this, or whatever the case may be. And for those of us in ministry, maybe we had goals of cultivating new members and growing your team of volunteers, or maybe you had goals to grow in your craft or, take lessons, practice more, those kinds of things. And it didn't happen, or it didn't happen as much as you wanted to. Now, there is a time and a place for pushing ourselves. There's a time and a place for holding ourselves accountable. And so I'm not negating that, but I want you to pay attention in this last week of 2022. I want you to think about the gain. What did you gain this year? What did you do that you can celebrate? Even if you didn't meet the goal, if the goal was 30 and you made 10, celebrate the 10 because it's more than 0. You're further than you were before, right? So you did make progress. And I tell you what, that mindset changes everything. It's so encouraging and just helps us to celebrate those wins because I don't know about you, but I focus on the losses a lot, or I focus on the failures. I could get like 100 yeses and get 1 no, and I would fixate on the no or fixate on the negative and feel bad about that. No, let's celebrate the 100, right? Let's celebrate how far we've come. And so what I want you to do when this podcast is done, whether you're driving or you're at home, doing dishes, or you're, making dinner, or you're just prepping for the weekend, or whatever the case may be, I want you, when this podcast is done, to sit down with a pen and paper or notes in your phone, whatever that looks like for you, and write this down. What have I gained in 2022? How have I grown in 2022? And what can I celebrate from 2022? All right. And if anything else comes to mind, just jot that down too. But there's 3 starting points for you. Write those down, and we'll put them in the show notes as well. So, if you are driving and you can't remember those 3, then you can just pull up the show notes and we'll have them typed out for you there. So I want you to reflect on that because, again, I don't want you to end this year in shame or in disappointment, but end it with celebration, because I guarantee you, even if you feel like this year was marked with hardship or failure or difficulty or frustration, all of the things that, of course, come. We all face those things. 2022 for me and my family was incredibly difficult, probably one of the most difficult that we faced. But there's so much to celebrate, so much to be grateful for, and so much that we have gained. Even in the ways where I feel like disappointed because I didn't reach a goal, because I'm goal-focused, I'm goal-oriented, I can celebrate the gain. And I don't want to live in that gap mindset where I'm always berating myself for what I didn't accomplish. So that being said, this episode, again, is going to be pretty short and sweet because I want to give you the opportunity to do some reflection. The next thing that I challenge you to do is to think through the ways that you need to grow in the future. What are areas that like, hey, I need to grow in this? And, maybe it's spiritually. Maybe you really want to dig deeper. Maybe it's in your craft as a musician, as a worship leader, or, maybe it's relationally with your spouse or with your kids, or, maybe it's a habit, or, whatever the case may be. I want you to think about, how can I grow in the next year? And so this is not like, how much stronger can I get? How much more can I work out? Like you'll get there. Those are all wonderful goals. I have those kinds of things too for, bettering ourselves and all of that. But right now, for our purposes, I want you to think about ways that you can grow. And, one of the things that I have developed in this last year to help worship leaders with their growth is a membership site. And I'm really excited about it. And I would just absolutely love to have you be a part of the Overflow Worship Leaders Online community. And we're going to devote episodes to this in the month of January, but it's priming you. Consider yourself primed, okay? We have a totally, completely revamped, user-friendly, incredible membership site for worship leaders. It's got on-demand training, an amazing community component, which I'm so excited about, and just so much more. So maybe you're thinking, hey, I would really like to take the next step in my growth as a worship leader. I invite you to check it out at overflowworshipleaders.com, and you can see what it's all about. I'm just really excited to share it with you, and stay tuned because there's going to be more coming. So if you are like not quite ready yet, well, we're going to talk about it a lot more. You'll get some more details and information, and we'll just hope to see you on the inside. All right, so that's the second thing. We're looking at how we can grow. And the third and most important thing that I challenge you to pay attention to in this last week of 2022 is this. A lot of times when I set goals, I'll speak for myself, okay? So a lot of times when I set goals, even if it's, personal things or health-related things or whatever, I do it for me, right? Like I do it because that's what I want to do, or that's what I think that I should do. Well, sometimes I don't pause and say, God, what's heaven's agenda for this? Like, what is your desire for me? And so I challenge you as you prepare to launch into a new year and think about what's ahead. pause this week. Like we talked about in the last episode of December, about taking time to pause in His presence. Well, maybe this holiday week, that kind of weird week between Christmas and New Year's that nobody really knows what to do with, like our business is open. Are we working? Are we not? Like, what are we doing? And you're probably exhausted as well as a worship leader coming off of, this incredibly busy season. So take time to pause and ask God, what is heaven's agenda for the next year in relation to the ministry you've called me to, my worship team, my family, my spouse, my children, my health, all the things. And write down, begin to journal and write down and keep track of the things the Lord places in your heart. And when something, pops into your mind and your heart, write it down and ask God, like, is this you or is this me? Because I don't know about you, but I want to walk into the new year with that posture of like, I don't want me. I don't want what I want. I want heaven's agenda. I want to be in alignment with what God is doing, because there's just no other way that is even worth living. And so I was reading in Colossians chapter 3, verse 1. I'm in the NIV. It says, since then you have been raised with Christ. Set your hearts on things above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. And that was just resonating in my heart. It's like, I want to set my mind on things above, set my mind on heaven's agenda, and ask God, download that to me. I want to know what that is for as much as I can, as much as you allow me for this year. But all the things that you put in front of me, what is your agenda? Because I don't want to do my agenda. I was listening to a podcast with Rita Springer and Anna Golden and Callie Halliganthal, and they were talking about this concept of like, sometimes we run at life and we run at our goals and we run at mountains that we were never meant to climb. And I don't want that. I don't want to get to the end of my life and realize that there were so many mountains that I just was like, yep, this is for me. This is what I'm going to do. And it wasn't mine to climb. And so in this week between Christmas and New Year's, I encourage you to take that time, put on some great worship music, and just sit and bring this before the Lord and say, what is your agenda? What is heaven's agenda for this? Because I want to be in alignment with you. So again, I leave you with Colossians 3, verses 1 and 2. Since then, you have been raised with Christ. Set your hearts on things above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things above, not on earthly things. So for the last time in 2022, I am signing off, but I'm so excited to kick things off with you in the new year in 2023. I'll be back in just a few weeks. And until then, be blessed.
You've been listening to the Overflow Worship Podcast. If you enjoy our podcast, please take a moment and leave us a 5-star rating and a written review, which helps us reach more people. New episodes are released every other Monday. So until next time, thank you for listening.